Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Wolf Gruner. I'm the founding director of the USC Shoah Foundation Center for Advanced Genocide Research. It's my pleasure to welcome you to a treat, to a distinct lecture by a distinct person. And just to say who enabled the presentation, I want to introduce that the USC Institute of Armenian Studies was co-organizing this event together with the Center for Advanced Genocide Research. Taner Akçam is the, I hope I pronounce this right,
Perfect.
Kaloosdian and Mugar Chair of Armenian Genocide Studies in History in the History Department at Clark University. He is there since 2008. He has a really wild biography, I have to say. This is a positive spin. So he got his BA in economics from the Middle East Technical University in Ankara in Turkey in quite a while ago. I don't say when, right?
Thank you.
And then at the same year when he got this BA, he was actually adopted by Amnesty International as a prisoner of conscience because he was imprisoned by the Turkish government for editing a leftist journal that criticized the treatments of Kurds in the Turkish state. As a prisoner of conscience, he went to live in Germany, where he received political asylum and citizenship.
Yes.
And he worked there at a very interesting and important institute, the Hamburg Institute for Social Research, which is an institute funded by a private entrepreneur who was actually getting his money. His family business was in cigarettes, Remsma. And but he kind of gave money for a good cause, and this institute is very focused on understanding violence in history. So it fosters and supports research on this topic, and including various genocides. So later he got his PhD in history at Hanover University in 1995, and then somehow managed his way to the US, where he was a visiting professor of history at the University of Minnesota. I want to introduce him here as one of the first Turkish scholars working extensively on the Ottoman genocide of the Armenians. And I say this, that he was one of the first, because now we have actually already a generation of scholars from Turkey who live in various countries, also in Turkey, but also in Europe and here in the US, who do substantial work on the Armenian genocide. And so he is practically a trailblazer in this regard. He's the author of more than 10 scholarly works, and the most important are From Empire to Republic, Turkish Nationalism and the Armenian Genocide, 2004. A Shameful Act, the Armenian Genocide and the Question of Turkish Responsibility, 2006. Young Turks' Crimes Against Humanity, the Armenian Genocide and Ethnic Cleansing in the Ottoman Empire, in 2012. And then the most recent one, which kind of is covered in the talk today, it's Killing Orders, Talat Pasha's Telegrams and the Armenian Genocide. And he will probably speak to the importance of these kind of elaborations for the history of and historiography of the Armenian Genocide. He received various awards, which I only mentioned: the Hurani Book Prize from Middle East Studies Association for his book Young Turk Crimes Against Humanity. But he got also some political awards for his activism. The Outstanding Upstander Award from World Without Genocide, the Hrant Dink Spirit of Justice and Freedom Medal from the Organization of Istanbul Armenians, and some other awards for his work on the Armenian Genocide. The last one I want to mention is, before I open the floor to him, is that he also is instrumental in creating archival documentation on the Armenian Genocide. And this is also important, which he will talk about, because so much material is hidden. So he was instrumental in creating the Krikor-Georgian Archive, a digital archive containing thousands of original Ottoman documents and memoirs relating to the Armenian Genocide. And Manuk, who was kind of behind the scenes working on this presentation, told me just to mention that the Visual History Archive of the Shoah Foundation actually has an interview of this man, and this is part of the collection of the Armenian Film Foundation, which was the first collection at the Shoah Foundation on the Armenian Genocide. So welcome again to all of you. Thanks for coming. And here I present Taner Akçam. Give him a warm welcome.
Thank you so much, Roy. Thank you. Thank you so much. It's a great pleasure for me here. And the topic of today's talk is indeed a new archive on Armenian, related to Armenian genocide, not only to Armenian genocide, actually to Armenian history or late Ottoman history. I'm a little bit tired, if I'm so sorry, because I'm traveling a lot lately. We owe really a lot, a great debt to one person, Armenian Catholic priest Grigor Gergerian. I will talk about his private archive and what this private archive contains. Actually, this is the talk of today. And this became, the archive will become also, because we just put online the entire archive, an important source for Armenian genocide and late Ottoman history, as I said. And it could be really a turning point because it includes a series of very important documents, and these documents will destroy the basic Turkish denialist argument. Those who familiar with our field, they would know that the genocide, Armenian genocide, was organized as a legal relocation, a resettlement policy. And whenever we claim, or Armenian or whoever, critical scholar, that what happened to Armenian was a genocide, Turkish government's traditional classic answer has been, yeah, there were some deaths, there were some difficulties, massacres here and there, but it was not government policy. And when you insist on the genocidal policy of Ottoman government, the argument has been, show us the original, show us the documents. Main Turkish denialist argument has been that there hasn't been, that it was not a government policy, and there is no one single document that clearly shows the genocidal intent of Ottoman authorities. Though the smoking gun, it's not there. This was the major argument. And I think Grigor Gergerian archive really blows up this main Turkish denialist argument. Before going into detail, I have to give some basic information who Grigor Gergerian was. Let me put my watch also here. He was born in the province of Sebastia. This is a town in central Anatolia in May 1911 and passed away 1988. His grave is today in Queens in New York, and I visited 2015. This is the flower that I put there for my respect of this individual, of this person. Grigor Gergerian was the youngest of 16 siblings, 8 boys and 8 girls, only 6 of whom survived the deportation and killing process. The other 10 and the parents were killed in front of Grigor Gergerian. He was a real genocide survivor. And together with one of his oldest brother, he succeeded reaching Beirut 1916, where he was taken in an orphanage, and then later he studied in Beirut and graduated St. Joseph University in the early 1930s, and he went to Rome and to Livonian Academy with an intention of continuing his theological education and becoming a monk. He became a priest 1937, and he decided to go to graduate program to do his PhD on Armenian genocide, a project that never finished. This was over the year he compiled documents after documents, but he never finished his PhD. How he, let me show some, over the years he compiled documents from several places. And the archive was saved by his nephew, Edmund Gergerian. This is where you see him. He allowed me finally 2015 to see the materials. One additional note for you, Krikor-Gergerian archive was a public secret knowledge among scholars. Everybody knew the existence of scholars of the archive, but nobody could access these material. Finally, 2015, he allowed me to see the materials, and I can give you more information. And these are some images from the archive. This is during the scanning process. It was not original, so he really saved the archive in a good way, the Edmund. But these all labels on it, we put it. So you should know that there was nothing, it was not organized, the entire archive, and not classified. Hundreds of files like this, most of them with Gergerian's handwriting and his own materials mixed with original materials. So this is the job with what we did, I can tell you later. And this is, as you see, the shelves up is empty. These are on the scanning process. So we scanned the entire archive. Krikor-Gergerian called his name Krieger. This is a German term, fighter. He considered himself as a fighter, and he used this pseudonym in the books that he wanted to publish. In the archive, we discovered at least 4 or 5 books that he never published actually. And he writes, this is what I discovered in his archive, that he travels throughout the archives, London, Vienna, Germany, Belgium, United States. He really compiled all possible documents related to Armenian genocide. What is the content of the archive? Content of the archive, we divided into main category that you understand. One is the documents from different archives, and the second is Gergerian's own files that he worked over decades actually. And what are the documents from different archives? We have here 3 major categories. First category is what I call Jerusalem archive. What is it? This is the Armenian Patriarchate records in Jerusalem. Actually, you can forget the term Jerusalem. This is Armenian Patriarchate records from Istanbul. We call it also Patrick Zaven material. Patrick Zaven was one of the last patriarch of Istanbul. So the Zaven collection, or the Istanbul Patriarch genocide materials, includes 3 major categories of documents. One is Istanbul military tribunals of 1919-1922. You may be familiar with the genocide history. When the First World War ended, the Ottoman government lost the war, a new party came to power, and they launched a series of investigation and interrogation against the Committee of Union and Progress. There were, if you know the German history, or this is the Leipzig Tribunal, similar thing after First World War. And in Istanbul, they set up first, 1918, an investigation committee. And this investigation committee traveled throughout Anatolia, and they collected material directly related to genocide. And then there were also tribunals. Altogether, there were 63 tribunals in Istanbul, and against 200 defendants. There were 16 death penalty, 3 were implemented, and the importance of the trial was not actually the verdicts of these trials. Throughout the process, it emerged an incredible amount of new materials, telegrams that include direct killing orders, or testimonies of high-ranking Ottoman civil bureaucrats, the governors, or the military personnel, openly acknowledging that extermination was a decision of the Central Committee and it was organized by government. Eyewitness accounts. All these materials today are gone. We don't know whereabouts of these materials. We only know some indictments and verdicts of these tribunals, which were published during 1919-20 in the Ottoman Gazette, in the Ottoman official Gazette. This was only our knowledge. And in 2015, I was able to see an important part of this material in Krikor Gergeryan's archive. Amazing. I will give you a couple examples. And second, during the tribunal 1922, Armenian Patriarchate set up a commission for individual perpetrators. And they developed reports and some records of these individuals. They developed files for the court or for Great Britain for a possible international criminal court. And these reports and records of this committee is also there. You see there perpetrator from Malatya, perpetrators of Ankara, a list of 80 perpetrators and with really some information about each of them. These are all in that archive now waiting the scholar to study. And the third important part of these Jerusalem archives are the reports on post-genocidal period. After war was over, approximately, according to Ottoman statistics, 200 Armenians turned back to their original places to live further. But the life was not easy. The Turks continued to persecute the Armenians, and they were sending regular reports from different provinces, handwritten Armenian or translated by the Patriarchate in English or French language for possible international criminal court. And all these materials are there in Krikor Gergeryan archive. Until today, nobody touched these materials. And the language is Ottoman, Armenian, French, and English. This is one set of documents. The second set of materials, what we call it Bogos Nubar library documents, or we call it Naim Andonion materials. This is an important material because it includes direct killing order of Turkish Ottoman Interior Minister Talat Pasha. This is the topic of my book, actually, basically this material. Short information about this set of documents. As I mentioned, Ottoman government and later Turkish governments either hide or destroyed all important incriminating documents. So the first set of documents, as I said, they vanished until 2015. But during 1918, some of the documents came out of hand. Turkish government could not control, and one case we know related to Naim Efendi. Who was Naim Efendi? He was deportation officer or a dispatch officer in Aleppo, and he was in charge of deporting Armenians from Aleppo in the desert of Derzor for the killing operation. He was a gambler. He loved alcohol. He was drunk and really loved gambling, and he took a lot bribe. And an Armenian intellectual with the name Aram Andonion met this Naim Efendi. He bribed him, and he received approximately 52 handwritten original documents. Naim Efendi copied with his hand because he was working in the deportation office, and gave it to Andonion. But he needed more money, and he asked again whether he can bring more handwritten copies. Andonion told him, no, this time I'll give you money only if you bring me some originals. and he handed over approximately 26 original documents with killing orders. And Andonion published these materials 1921, Great Crime, with the name of a book, and this became one of the important documentation of Armenian genocide. In 1983, Turkish government published a book saying that these are all fake. These are all produced by Armenians. The sad story is Aram Andonion, after publishing this book, he went to Paris and he became the director of Bogosnubar Library. And he put all materials in the library. You think that when you go there you will find the materials? No, they are gone. Nobody knows what happened with these materials until I discover all these in this private archive. I will show you some examples. It's amazing. It's a bombshell, really. And then, of course, the third category, there are a lot of German, Austrian, British, and American archival material in this archive. They are not so important today because there are other ways of getting access to this archival material. So this is all the contents of the archive, and this is the Gergerian, and the Gergerian's own file. He worked over the years, copied, duplicate the materials, and so on, uncatalogued and unorganized the entire archive. And we, after I discovered this material, I said that I'm scanning everything and I'm putting there on online. Nobody should suffer like myself, because I heard about the existence of this archive 1996 and I couldn't get access until 2015. And I said new generation should not suffer, and I copied everything, scanned everything, and we developed a system of organization and put them all in the archive. If you open the archive, this is, let me jump, this is the Krikor Gergerian archive online, available for you now. You can have access all this material. And as you see, we divided the archive into three main archives: Ottoman materials. These are the materials from Istanbul military tribunals, and Bogosnubar Library Andonion materials. They are all in Ottoman language. And the second, the private materials. This is the Krikor Gergerian's own work that he developed over the years, and the archive 3 materials from other sources: German, Austrian, Great Britain, English, and so on. And since it was an archive, unorganized, and it was impossible to develop a cataloging system to move the documents from here to there. In order to have the respect, we kept it as it is, and we developed an extensive index, searchable index for the entire archive, for Ottoman archive, for private archive, and for other materials. And it is searchable. You can search. There is a summary of the documents, almost page to page, and then you can find out in which file they are, and you can go and really download these documents. Here, this is the first part of the archive, where you get the main information about the archive, but the original materials, around 100,000 pages maybe, they are on Clark University's website. This is the archive, and I will show you some examples from Ottoman archive. Ottoman materials, if you go the first pages, if you click here, you can download the index and make your search, and in English language and in Turkish language. This is in both languages are available, the index for you. And the Ottoman materials in the archive, we developed a cataloging system based on the certain cities and topics. This is the files that we have. And if you go to website, you will see here the Ottoman collections based on cities and certain topics and the name. So if you click any city, let's say the Adana, the first one. This is a town in South Turkey, and you will see 10 documents. We have 10 documents related to this town. These are all from the military tribunals. And as you see, there is a these are Ottoman language, and there is an English summary of each document. And when you click on each document, then you will see here Turkish transliteration and English translation. You can download and you can read about these archives, what they are. This is an incredible source for new generation that they can use extensively. So this was my decision that nobody should suffer as I suffered over the period. This is what we did, and now you will wonder how these materials from Istanbul Military Tribunal ended up in Jerusalem, and some of them in Paris, the Andonian material, and you will also ask how Gergerian get hand on this material. Here a little bit story for you. This is a guy with the name Grim-Faced Mustafa Pasha. Kürt or Nemrut Mustafa. Who was this Nemrut Mustafa? He was preceding judge in Istanbul Military Tribunal. And he was already arrested towards end of 1920. It's a long story. 1922, he escaped to Cairo because he scared of his life. Nationalists took over. He was a very anti-unionist guy. He was arrested only because he gave an interview to an Armenian newspaper in Istanbul. So there was always during the trial, there were always a fight, a power struggle between unionists, those who organized the Armenian genocide, and those who were against them. And our judge was one of those who were against the unionists, against those who organized the genocide. And 1922, he escaped to Cairo, where he settled. And around 1940-41, coincidentally, our guy, Krikor Gergerian, met this individual. And I discovered also Krikor Gergerian's handwriting in the archive. He mentions about his meeting with these judges. And he says, really, especially he, the Gergerian, had many meetings and long discussions with one of the judges of the Turkish extraordinary court-martial trying cases of the Armenia. It had an important impact on him because judge told him the following story. He said, according to Ottoman law, Armenian Patriarchate had the right to represent Armenians in court. And according to Ottoman law also, they were able to get some copies of the material. As a proceeding judge, I allowed Armenian Patriarchate to make copies or take the original of some of the materials. And they took. And he said, I know all these material were sent first to Manchester, from Manchester to Marseille, and from Marseille it ended up in Jerusalem. And he said, don't spend your time around, go to Jerusalem and make the copies. Indeed, mid-1960s, Gergerian went to Jerusalem and he copied the entire material that he could find in Jerusalem archive. And this is one important source that we have. Here is another very important information for you. Patriarchate archive still closed to everybody. You cannot go and work in Jerusalem Armenian Patriarchate archive. It's closed. Even I discovered 2015 their materials in Krikor Gergerian's archive. They didn't allow me to compare the materials. Only after I published my book, Killing Order, they allowed me to see the material, and I can confirm Krikor Gergerian indeed filmed almost everything what you could see in Jerusalem archive related to Istanbul Tribunal materials. This shows us the importance of this archive. This is the first time really coming to light this material. The importance of the archive. Some of the documents, I'll show you some of the documents so that you can understand the importance. Main denialist argument was always, as I said, show the original. Turkish authorities over the decades made two major operations. The first one, they either hide or destroyed the main bulk of documentary evidence, like the Istanbul military tribunals, clearly show the genocidal intent of the Ottoman authorities, or as in case of Naim Andonian documents, which was already published, Turkish authorities claimed that these documents are either fake or were doctored by Armenians. Since we could not have access to the originals, all these materials, these both arguments were so strong. Most of scholars, including myself, we never used, for example, Naim Andonian documents as a source in Armenian genocide research. We just neglected it. How it does work? Here an example for you. This is the indictment of main tribunal in Istanbul, main trial, against the Central Committee members of Union and Progress Party and the government member. We call it main trial. You can compare really with Nuremberg, actually. And in that indictment, and Ottoman government published the indictment 1919 May, during the trial, actually. And in that main indictment, the prosecutor quoted from several original Ottoman documents. One of original documents from Bahattin Shakir, who was the head of Teşkilat-ı Mahsusa, who was in charge of coordinating and killing operation in historic Armenia. And he sent July 1915 a telegram to Harpert from Erzurum, from city of Erzurum to Harpert. And in that telegram he says, are the Armenians being dispatched from there, being liquidated? Are these troublesome people you say you have expelled and dispersed being exterminated or just deported? Answer explicitly. Second important document, it shows the genocidal killing operation very clearly. Second document, it's also quoted in that indictment, belonged to 3rd Army Commander Mahmud Kamil Pasha. 3rd Army Commander, as a 3rd Army was responsible for the entire historic Armenia. When the deportation process started, the following had happened. A lot of Muslim families started hiding Armenians in their houses. And the entire deportation operation was jeopardized. And 3rd Army Commander sent a circular saying that those who have been hiding and maintaining Armenians in opposition to government order be hanged in front of their properties and their properties burned to the ground. Official circular. These are all from main indictment, and we used, my mentor Vahakan Dadrian first published all these. We used all these documents extensively, the Takvim official gazette, to show the genocidal intent of the Ottoman authorities. What was the answer that we heard? How do you know that this is a quotation from an original document? Show us the original. Indeed, they either hide or destroyed the original. We couldn't show the original of the documents. This is one important problem. Let me jump these. I will show this material that they show the originals. They are all Krikor Gergeryan's archive, and along with other ciphered document. As I mentioned, investigation committee formed on November 1918, and they traveled throughout the Anatolia and they compiled a set of important documents. And they also, the judges from Istanbul, sent letter to governors saying that send all materials that you have related to 1915, which some provinces did. I will show you some example for it also. What was the problem? They were asking us to show the original. Here is the original of 3rd Army Commander's letter. And as you see, it is with the Ottoman letterhead here. They cannot deny the authenticity of this document. This was among the court material. Another important document for you, this is the Bahattin Shakir's telegram, the head of special organization. Are the Armenians were exterminated or liquidated or sent somewhere else? Tell us. This is the original of the document. This is an important document. What is the importance of it? Number one, the importance is the letterhead of Interior Ministry. They cannot deny the authenticity of this document. And second important part, you see here 71924. These are 4-digit codings. This is what Ottoman government used to communicate during that period. And they changed this coding system every 6 months or every year. And as you see, for example, here 4889 Sevk deport, it means, and these are decoded because the receiving end knows the coding system, and they decoded and wrote on top of each 4-digit number, and then here you have the entire text. Here is the important job why New York Times called me Sherlock Holmes of Armenian genocide. I worked in Ottoman archive around 6 months, and here what I discovered. As you see here, the word send off deport 489, the word Armenian 8519, or the first personal possessive suffix. It's not only word, I mean possessive suffix, plural endings. The plural ending was 9338, first personal possessive suffix was 7749. I worked in the Ottoman archive and I discovered it is the same coding system with the materials that we have in Ottoman archive in Istanbul. So they cannot deny the authenticity. Here is one example for you. This is from Istanbul archive. Harmless document. It does not say anything. But as you see here, the word Ermeni 8519 here, and another one 8519, and Armenian, and this is exactly here 8519 in Bahattin Shakir's document. So they cannot deny the authenticity of this document, I mean additional to the letterhead that I'm talking about. I'm jumping now the other examples. All these you can find in my book. I published all these. These are all these 2-1 here from Ottoman archive today. As I said, these are harmless materials, the same coding system, 4-digit number as you see here, 3311 and so on. This coding system and 4-digit number, this is also the same and exact the same way as we have in Bahattin Shakir document. This is the I'm jumping all these. I made these discoveries so that they cannot deny the authenticity of this material. So cipher telegrams that we can prove the genocidal intent of Ottoman authorities. Other important material, testimonies and interrogations, what Turkish government hide or destroyed. Some of them are available in Ottoman archive. Here one example for you. I'm jumping a little bit so that we can complete at least some part of it. You may know this Salih Zeki. Who was he? He was the Hess of Auschwitz. He was the chief guy in Der Zor and in charge of exterminating approximately 200,000 Armenians summer of 1916. And there was a court case in absentia against this Salih Zeki, and who was one of the person testified against him. He was the mayor of Mardin. He spoke against, as another Turkish official gave a testimony against Salih Zeki. As a result of these testimonies, he was sentenced to death penalty in absentia. And here you have the Ottoman original from the court records in Krikor Gergeryan's archive. Or another example for you. You may have heard about this Kemal who was hanged 1919 April. The first case of the military tribunal was related to the city Yozgat in central Anatolia. And Kemal was a defendant in that case, and he was at the end hanged. Death penalty, and it was implemented 1919 in April 19. And here you have his interrogations in This is Gergerian transliterated and translated everything into Armenian also. This is the Armenian files that we have in the Gergerian archive. But here is, you have the original of these investigations in the archive. Another important part of Gergerian archive. In 1915 September, Ottoman government sent 3 major delegations to different provinces. The story is following. Normally, entire Armenian wealth and properties were confiscated by Ottoman government. But everybody was plundering this wealth. Individuals, government officials, military officials, they couldn't stop the process. And Ottoman government sent 3 delegations to different regions of the empire. And the job of this investigation committee was, they had authority to try the individuals who really confiscated properties or misused the Armenian properties. These delegations, they wrote reports about their inquiries. We knew from other sources that these reports exist, but we never had the hand of this report. And these reports never published before, and they were not only related to the confiscation of properties or property issues, they were also mentioning about extermination of Armenians. And we have in Gergerian archive all these reports. Now they are available in Ottoman, Turkish, and I hope the more I find money, we will be in process of translating all this material. They will be available for English. You can download everything and use the way that you want to use. This is the commission report from Diyarbakir, and the other was the Adana, the commission report from Adana, and so on. Another important part of the Gergerian archive is that some documents in Gergerian archive are available today in Ottoman archive. I show you some examples. As I mentioned, the proceeding judge was writing to provinces saying that send us the telegram that you received during the war years. The province of Konya, as you see here, this is the Konya's letterhead, they sent 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 documents, copied from by the governor, and it was sent to Istanbul. Here in Ottoman archive today, you have 1, 2, 3, 4. I didn't have the space for the 5th one. You have exactly the same documents in Ottoman archive today. So you cannot, nobody can deny the authenticity of this material. And as I said, this is another example regarding the confiscated properties and how it should be used. And this is the document in Gergerian archive. No letterhead, nothing, but you have the same here in Ottoman archive. This is an original document from Ottoman archive. So exact the same material that you have there. This is the material related to Andonion that I mentioned to you. He published, Aram Andonion miraculously survived the Armenian Genocide, and he published this book. But 1983, Turkish Historical Society published a book and claimed that the memoirs and the records that Andonion had published were all fake. Here's some examples for you for the documents. This is one ciphered telegram, as you see, 3-digit Arabic numbers, and the telegram coming from Istanbul ordering the completely annihilation of all Armenians in Syria area who survived and arrived there. And also government says, Interior Minister, no matter how tragic the methods of annihilation might be, without listening to feelings of conscience, their existence must be ended. And there were approximately 8 this kind of direct killing order by central government to the provinces. This is another document saying that destroy the children. And Turkish authorities in 1983 made 3 major arguments. They said, a man with the name Naim Efendi never existed. They said, we went through the entire archive. We couldn't find any in personal files of the Interior Ministry and in other ministries. There is not such a man. And second important argument, you can't have a memoir for someone who didn't exist. And the telegrams that were supposedly sent by Talat that I showed you, they are all fakes. All of these has been fabricated by Armenians and Andonians. And they had a very strong argument because they also said, if you believe that there is a memoir, show us the memoir. You cannot show the memoir. You cannot prove the existence of Naim Efendi. And the telegrams claim to be forgeries based on 12 Grond. I'm not going to discuss all these. And this is the reason that the scholarly world stopped using this material. And here is the memoir. I discovered the memoir in Krikor Gergeryan's archive. This is there. And I published this memoir along with other issues. I have to stop here because time is up. I think it's enough for me. I talk too much. We can continue in question and answer period. I published these, and along with also documents, the telegrams, I found the copies of the telegrams. He filmed. Our Gergeryan went to Paris 1950-51 when Aram Andonian still alive, and he filmed everything there, along with other materials also, and they are all available for you to use. These are direct killing order that shows the genocidal intent of Ottoman authorities. Thank you very much for listening. Yeah, I'll take questions, of course.
So the floor is open for questions.
Yeah, yes.
I'm honored for you to represent the Armenian community, that you are bringing this light for the new generation of Armenians that are being born and the Turkish kids that are being born. So I'm honored to have you here, and I'm blessed from the bottom of my heart.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
My question is, like, if I understand it correctly, all
Louder so that I can hear.
if I understand the sentiment correctly, the reason for keeping these documents hidden is to mainly to protect them, because
By whom?
by Jerusalem,
Yeah.
Bulgarian, and from the Bogos Mugar library, it seems like even if you just put it in the library and everyone knows they're supposed to be there, they can just disappear. So my main concern after everything you told us is, how can we ensure the safety and of these documents that are now discovered and everyone knows there somewhere?
These are the number one, they are all online electronically available for everybody. And second, the original material, Edmund Gergeryan was kind enough, based on my desire, they are all now in Boston, National Association of Armenian Research Center. They have this material and they will put there in their archive, and they are also going to be available for anybody who wants to see them. So there won't be any possibility to destroy these materials. Yes?
How aware was Raphael Lemkin of either Andoni, his book, or Gergeryan and the research they had done to prove intent in the genocide? Did they know each other? Did they research together? Did they work together?
Not at all. I mean, I know Lemkin materials also because we teach on that subject. I never came across any material that shows that they knew each other. Not at all. Yes?
Dr. Hi.
Hi.
What has been the response of the Turkish Institute and government so far about your book?
It's a great question. Let me show you something else. Turkish government has an institution in Ankara. It is called Center for Euro-Asian Studies. They have a website. After I published the material on Bahattin Shakir, this leader of Teşkilat-ı Mahsusa, they wrote several articles about my findings, mainly personally. They attacked me personally. And in one of the articles, their main argument was Bahattin Shakir was a concerned citizen. He wanted to know what happened to Armenians. Here is the, from their, as you remember, the telegram was saying, are the Armenians being there sent away or liquidated? Or you want to liquidate somewhere else? Kind of, I mean, this was the telegram. And here is the answer. If we are to interpret this telegram, it is possible to deduce that Shakir, perpetrator, that some unwanted massacre had taken place in Harput, was bothered by it and wanted to inquire about the issue in order for the cessation of the massacres. This is an important topic. Thank you for the question. Whatever document you bring up, whatever, how strong they are, denialism will continue to deny the fact. Denialism has nothing to do with the facts. It is a political decision, and you can defeat denialism only politically. So the materials that we have can really destroy the discourse, the way of their argumentation, but they will find new ways, they will find new strategies to deny historic truth and historic fact. So my only appeal to Armenian communities and for all those who are fighting for justice and for truth, they should use this material in their fight of denialism. And it will be a political fight, and it will decide politically, not academically. Armenian genocide is an academically already established fact, and there is not much debate anymore among scholars on that topic. Since Turkey is a very strong state in the Middle East, since Turkey was supported by United States, Great Britain, and so on, they will continue to deny the Armenian genocide. So this is the truth. Yes?
What is the name of the website in it?
Yeah, Krikor Gergeryan. You just write his name, Krikor Gergeryan, and you will write archive, and you will find the archive, the Gergeryan archive. Let me find the other one. With our respect for this individual, so this is the name. If you write Krikor Gergeryan archive, you will find all these materials available or online. We just put them on online in November, towards end of November. Everybody can have access, and everybody can download as much material as they wanted. No, you don't need to type Clark. Just type Krikor Gergeryan archive. It shows up automatically. So this is that's what we did. I mean, everybody should get access. Yes?
Can you sell your book in Turkey?
Yes, of course. I'm a little bit patriotic, quote unquote. I don't know what it means. Don't ask me in details. Whatever I publish in Turkish first, so that they should not blame me that I'm doing something outside of country against Turkey. The killing order was published in a different version. I added in English version 2 new chapters, but I published later the Turkish also. So the book, original book, was published first 2016 in Turkish language.
And what was the response?
Generally silence. This is the general attitude, and the book made 2 editions. I mean, it's also a good thing for a Turkish, for an academic book, but general reaction is silence in Turkey.
Do you go to Turkey much, or you feel safe there? Or?
I used to go until 2016 summer. I was there 2016 working in the archive, and after this so-called coup d'etat in 2016 summer, the situation in Turkey has totally changed. As you know, we have a very bad regime there, and it's not safe to travel. Yes, Manuk. Oh, okay, yeah. Yes, please, yeah.
Oh, the actual, some of the documents, the original documents that had the actual official government seal, where did those documents come from? How did you have access to those?
That I showed you, these
Yes.
Ottoman materials, they are available for everybody.
Okay.
In Istanbul, Ottoman archive, let me give you this information to you. You may be surprised. Ottoman archive today is one of the best archives in the world because of two reasons. Number one, they already digitized all materials that is there, and you can download as much material as you want. And if you cannot find some documents in digitized form, they will give you within 24 hours. And here is the second important reason why this archive is so important and so developed. If you ever work in German Foreign Office archives or Americans or Great Britain and ask certain files, they will bring you the files, each 800, 900 pages, and you have to go through them in order to find. No, in Ottoman archive, they catalog individual documents. So you read the summary from catalog, there is a number, you click on the number, document comes there, and you download and take it away. This is a walk-in archive. In old days, you had to go and through the counselor here to get a permission to work in the archive, and sometimes you were kicked out of the archive. They never allowed you to take certain documents. I remember first when I started working, you could get only 20 documents in a way, only the next day and so on. It was a hassle. Today, you can get everything what they have on the, and it's digitized, it's on in front of your computer. And this is another interesting information. If you don't want to go Istanbul, because Istanbul archive is huge, it's crowded, and it's not, service is horrible because customers are too much there. You go to Ankara, silence, quiet, and you have access from Ankara to Istanbul archive, and as if you were working in Istanbul. So this is really one of the important good archives in the world, and I really recommend to all scholars who wants to really want to work on late Ottoman period should go and see this archive. And the catalogs are modern Turkish. You don't need to read all Ottoman handwriting. It's very difficult. It will take time. Just download Ottoman materials as we do. We don't read Ottoman materials in the archive. We download, we take with us, and deal with it later. Yes?
Another question. Are the Ottoman military archives available for researchers like you?
No. The military archive in Ankara still theoretically open, but practically it is closed. You have to fill forms, several pages, and if they allow you, you go there. I know from my friends, and you sit in front of a computer and you say your topic, and they go and they choose some of the material they think that it's important for you to look. This is it. And you are not allowed to get any copies of these documents. They say, read it here, we can think later, maybe you can get some copies of it. Practically, it is closed to scholars. But since you asked, let me give you another interesting example how I discovered the existence of Naim Efendi. Turkish Military Archive published volumes of the books from their archive. This is one of the examples. They published in 2000, from 2005 to 2007, they published 8 volumes, this is the volume 7, from their archive materials related to Armenian deportation, and they sometimes published documents they thought it's good for Turkish government's purposes. One of these volumes, this is volume 7, was related to the concentration camp Meskene, where Naim Efendi, our Ottoman bureaucrats, met Andonian. And there was a corruption story because Naim was taking money, and these Armenians from here were escaping back to Aleppo. And governor of Aleppo wrote letter after another to Istanbul saying that I'm stopping the deportation from Aleppo area to Derzor. It doesn't make any sense because Armenian bribes the Ottoman official in Meskene and they are coming. It's better you take care of it. And Ottoman government indeed set an investigation committee to the area, and investigation committee interrogated the officers, bureaucrats, and so on, and against the corruption. And military archive thought they are doing something good, and they published all these reports of this investigation committee. And guess what? One of the guys that they interrogated was Naim Efendi. So it was not me. The honor is not mine to discover that the Naim Efendi existed as an Ottoman bureaucrat. It was the Turkish general staff, they published this material. So this kind of important material. And other important issue you might ask, I showed you these documents with all these coding system. These are the coding system. And in Ottoman archive, these are, as you see, the 4-digit coding system and so on. This is how I discovered the Bahattin Shakir's telegram was original. You might also wonder, I mean, why they put this material? We are so thankful to them. Otherwise, we couldn't have proved it. And they started putting this material after 2012. My interpretation is a human mistake. They thought Naim Efendi's story, Andonian issue, is already gone. They never thought that some scholar would come and make research and read all these volumes, because each volume is 800 pages. Nobody reads them, I mean, unless some idiots like myself goes through these materials. And they published. This is how we could really prove the authenticity of these materials. Yes?
I saw that it said Naim Effendi was 26.
Yes.
At the time, does not seem pretty young for somebody who's like such an influential figure.
He was not influential. He was a dispatch officer. He was in charge of sending Armenians in group from the concentration camp because the order was coming from Aleppo. He was not the director of the office. He was, as it says here in the document, I might have, again, then we can read the English version. This is the English version, you can see. Naim Efendi, 26, married the former dispatch officer at Maskana, currently employed as the grain seller official of municipality. And we know the story why he was kicked out of the deportation office and so on and so forth. So he was a normal guy in that office. And according to his memoir, he says he never deported Armenians. True or wrong, this is his own story. And interesting part, the entire testimony that he gave here cooperates with what Andonian wrote in his memoir. Exactly the same story. So this shows how the real archival materials corroborates with what Armenian survivors later told us the stories. It's an incredible material. Yes?
How is this being viewed in Istanbul and Turkey by the youth?
I'm sorry?
How is this being viewed if the youth in Turkey and Istanbul has access to it? Do we know their reaction to this, or do they see it's fake? Do they see like...
I mean, they cannot deny the authenticity of these materials. These are from their own archive. It's hard to answer your question, but those who knows Turkey maybe agree with me that the general attitude in Turkey has changed a little bit.
That's good.
It is not so much strong denialism as we see in government policies. It continues. I think because of all these publications, Hrant Dink assassination, and the development of civil society and several activities, I think there is a sense, at least in universities, and something bad happened. I think all the publications that we had and the wonderful work of Hrant Dink Foundation still working there, and all other universities, conferences, has changed the academic climate of the country. This is at least what I believe. Any other question? So, yes.
Are any of your current students focusing on any of the archives to publish materials about them? For example, on the testimonies that women had given that are in the archive?
I'm looking graduate students to my program, mainly who knows Armenian and can work with the Armenian materials in Grigor-Gergerian archive. And one of my graduate students working on perpetrator in the central Ankara province, and she is going to use extensively Gergerian materials, of course. And I'm looking more students for my graduate program. Yes?
One last question. Now that the Patriarchate knows the importance of these documents, do they plan to do anything about it?
Yes, they are in scanning process. I don't know when they are going to finish. And they want to make the entire archive available for any researcher. They are still in process, but I have to tell you, I wrote them a letter 5 years ago. This was the answer that I got. We are in the scanning process and we will make everything available. I don't know how long does it take. I hope it will take, because the Jerusalem Archives material has not only, it is not limited with Gergerians. It's only a small portion. This is 10 boxes I saw. I mean, when I went there, they allowed me. Finally, after I published my book, they allowed me to see the materials. It's 10 boxes of documents. But they have really hundreds of thousands of other materials for other periods. They are very important, and I hope they will make the archival material available for everybody. Okay, thank you very much.
He already said thank you, but I actually wanted to thank him because I think not only for his presentation today, but for the work he did, for the publicity of these documents. And I just wanted to add one thing. When you started your talk in the beginning saying that the Turkish government denies because there was no smoking gun. Just looking back at my field of Holocaust studies, there's also no smoking gun for the mass murder of the Jews, and nobody really can deny it. Yeah? So just bringing this in. So thank you so much, Taner, for coming. And
thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much.